Hello, and welcome to another episode of the 91 podcast, the show where we dig deep into people's passions with the hope to inspire, educate, and encourage you. On today's episode, we have Mr. Wole Adebola. He's an IT professional and also a deacon in the Redeemed Christian Church of God. Welcome, Wole. It's great to have you in our studio today.
Hello, and thank you for having me here.
Okay, Wole, for people watching out there, could you describe yourself? What kind of person are you? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What are your interests?
Yes. So for me, it's God first, and I walk with God first. I am someone who wants the best for everyone. I'm actually quite passionate about seeing people do well. I don't know. It's just something I have. I never want to see people fail, even though I'm not in the place to help everyone succeed. But I find joy in seeing people do well. So that's why some of my favorite movies are the inspirational life stories about people overcoming adversity. So I find joy in seeing people succeed. I enjoy, I think I already spoke about technology and writing. So I'm just someone who loves people, even though it's not always obvious. I can be in a group, I'm very quiet. I genuinely like being around people. That's actually something that some might find strange who know me and hear this. But I like being around people. I love people because to me, they're all God's creation.
What are your hobbies?
My hobbies, now it's strange, I used to read. I was a reading child. From the first day I could discern words on paper, I read everything from my father's encyclopedia collection. Whatever I could find to read, I devoured it. That actually helped me a lot because it really gave me a lot of a broad, knowledge growing up. So reading is a strong passion, even though I don't do it much these days because the world is changing. Writing, coincidentally, I also write. So I have a blog which I write on sporadically, not frequently
What's it
enough. So it's called Relationship XL. That's a letter X and letter L. Address relationshipxl.online. I hope to put more effort into that. Technology. So I also do web design development on the side. So again, there's a website for that. Maybe that might be put on screen later on. So those are, I guess, the two main passion: reading, writing, and things around that, and then web development. Yeah.
And what's your idea of a perfect first date?
Perfect first date. I don't know what that is. What is that?
Like, what would you like to do?
So I think first dates, if you may use that word, should be casual. Advice for those out there. Don't go heavy. I've read many horror stories on Twitter. Oh yes, that's one of the things I do. I lurk on Twitter. I don't contribute much, but I just go through during some down minutes. So keep it casual. Coffee shop. There's a story. Okay, let's leave that out. That's on Twitter anyway. So yes, it should be something casual. No pressure, no heavy expectations on the first. It's a first date. So I don't know. Some people may go for heavy dinners. That's fine. I think it's personal preference. But for me, I'll just keep it casual.
Okay. Yeah. On your website, Relationship XL, you talk about waiting like royalty. What's that about?
So it was inspired around the coronation of the king, the current king of England, and the long wait, if we may call it that, he had to go through for becoming the king today. So I kind of just drew parallels between his experience and waiting for certain things we desire or we know is coming our way, but we're not quite there. So it's just drawing a parallel between that, making a comparison on how he had to wait to get where he is today and how we may sometimes have to wait to get to certain desired goals.
And what are the things that get you through your waiting period?
Prayer does. That may sound funny to some. Prayer does. Keeping the expectation alive does. Having an unending hope, I guess. Not giving up, believing it's going to happen. That doesn't mean I don't go through moments of doubt or worry or wonder, but yes, the hope, I guess, is the key word. The hope keeps you going. The hope keeps me going. So keep hope alive. Even the Bible talks about faith, hope, and love being three ingredients essential to life. So hope matters a lot. As long as you have that, I believe it's possible to achieve any goal.
So, Wally, being in a church setting, you go to church every Sunday, you're a deacon in the church. I also found out that you are unmarried. Do you feel this has any effect on the way, you're treated in the church environment as a deacon? Do people ever wonder, oh, you're a deacon, you're not married, And by the way, how old are you again?
In my 40s. Yep. So we'll leave it there for now.
So do you feel you're treated a particular way, by people in the church, being in your 40s and not married?
Yeah, actually, I think, with the specific church where I am, I think I'm fortunate that it's been fine, mostly. I don't feel like... How do I put it? I don't feel like held back because of it. So I think I'm thankful for the pastor I have in that sense. He's been someone who is open. So he allows people to express themselves or to do whatever they feel like they're called or led to do, or even just want to volunteer to do in the church. So he's been open in that sense. So in that sense, in my particular situation, no, I don't feel held back or limited in terms of not being married, I would say. But I do know also that it's probably an unspoken expectation that it's ideal to be married. For instance, if I was to say I want to be a pastor, I don't think anyone would stop me. I know I know a couple of people who are not married and who are church pastors today. So I don't think there's a rule in my church context anyway to say you have to be married to be a pastor. And I also, like I said, don't feel held back because of it.
But do you ever feel like people have a certain view of you? Like are there, stereotypes around, being an unmarried man in your 40s?
I mean, I'll be lying if I said I don't feel that. Yeah, it happens, and it's gonna happen. And to be honest, I've grown. Should I say used to it? Maybe I'm very gracious. I guess you grow, you become mature. You expect people to behave a certain way, but I don't. How do I put it? I don't allow that to disturb me too much, or allow myself to be held back. But certainly there are expectations. Certainly, you hear things, you get told some things. Things
what
happen.
What kind of things?
I mean...
Give us an example of what, people might have said.
What people might have said. I mean, it's assumptions. Okay, let me give possibly a common one. So, say I haven't seen someone we've not seen for a while, and they're greeting. And one of the common greetings is, oh, how's the family? So essentially it's an assumption that, okay, you should be married or you're married. So yeah, that one happens a lot. So
I never actually thought of that. I do say how's the family to everybody, but I've never actually thought that, you're assuming the person is married. You're assuming they have a family by, saying how's the family.
Yeah.
So what would you rather they say to you instead of how's the family?
I mean, to me, it's straightforward. Well, maybe it's straightforward because I've experienced it. Maybe I would have done the same if I'd been married years ago and see people. But yeah, it's just a self-correction. Just you're speaking to the person, speak to the person, greet to the person, catch up with the person. If their situation has now changed, I'm sure they'll bring that up themselves. So just speak to the person in front of you. So don't make assumptions around or about the person. So you've met the person, you've not spoken in years. Catch up, with the person about what's going on with them.
I guess it's almost the same like, when you've got some married couples that they don't have children, and then you've not spoken to them in years, and you start asking, how are the kids? Do you have kids? All of that. And you don't really realize that you're putting pressure on the person by making those sort of comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or their emotional state, from that. Okay, also another question. I know with women, there's always a lot of pressure to get married, before you're 30. And I always feel like it's not the same with men, that men are treated differently. So just from your perspective, do you feel that there's a lot of pressure being put on you to get married?
Yes and no. Yes, it happens. No, because I know it's less for me as a man than it is for women. Of course, women have it, should I say, worse or heavier. But yes, definitely. I think for me, probably the largest, if I can use the word pressure, comes from, parents, they're older, they're concerned, which is natural. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just concerned about what is the natural progression of life. They just want to see it happen. So yeah, some of the pressure comes from parents, especially. For me, in my case, it may be different for others, and not everybody, of course, has their parents, present in their lives. But I'd say the greater pressure comes from the parental side. I used to have some pressure from the pastoral side. I don't think it was deliberate, but that has eased now. It's eased. I think I've just been given the space to, I don't know, work it out with God, I guess. So, yeah.
You say work it out with God. So how has this made you feel, the situation? How has it made you feel with your relationship with God?
Cuts. Let me drink. Wait.
Don't cut, leave it rolling.
Okay.
Action.
Repeat the question.
So, being single, how has that affected your relationship with God?
Oh, good question.
Or has it had any effect on your relationship with God?
Excuse me. It has. Let me say it did. Of course, this has happened in phases. So let me go back. Now, I planned, or let me say I wanted to be married. I had a target to be married by the time I'm 25. That was it. So that was my personal plan and preference. I had everything, mapped out in terms of, okay, I want to be married by 25. This is my preferred age range. I don't want more than so number of years different. So I did have a plan. So that may go back to assumptions. So I'm not single by choice, although people may say it differently, that at the end of the day, everything in your life is based on your choices. But it was not, or it is not my preference to still be single. So my plan was to be married by 25. Obviously, over the years, that did not happen, not without attempts toward it, of course. So to come back to your question on how it affected my relationship with God. So along the lines, as I began to experience my, should I say, unmet expectations, not saying it was God's fault. Obviously, you look back and things are clearer. I know I take full responsibility for the journey. But there was a period, I think around my 30s, when I'll say I went through what I might call a crisis of faith, essentially. So I started to have questions and doubts. You start to feel fed up that, hold on, what's going on? Why is this happening for everybody? I mean, I know this person, I know that person. It happens so easily. Some of them have only just become Christians, but it just happened. I've been, in my eyes, faithful to God. But so questions which others may have experienced. So I had that crisis of faith at some point. I was still going to church, still serving in church. But I say in my heart, at some point, I probably became, should I say, angry with God. I went through what I later learned some people called a deconstruction of your faith, essentially. That's one of the terms out there for it. I was still in church, but I started to have questions. So I had to break down many things. I had to strip a lot of things away. And I had to regrow my faith. I'm just, condensing the story. So I had to come back after the crisis to a place of just peace or surrender or acceptance that, you know what, this is not God's fault. I know where I went wrong. I know the things I did wrong along the way. And I just came to a place of, you know what, just rest in God. This does not define my life or my relationship with God. All this has happened. And one of the consolations I found is the scripture that says all things eventually work together for the good of those who, the rest of it. So I just felt, you know what, I made mistakes. I did wrong here. I did wrong there. And I've just rested in God will bring it all together for good at some point, whenever, that point comes. So that's kind of been the journey.
I know you mentioned, you did wrong here, you did wrong there. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I don't think people actually get married till they've found their life partner. Throughout your journey, did you ever find anyone that you'd say was your life partner? Or have you just not found her yet?
So that goes back to what I mentioned about I got to know it wasn't God holding anything back. I believe God provided along the way. Again, this is all based on looking back. They say things are clearer in hindsight, isn't it? So I can pinpoint at least 2 to maybe 3 times where I feel like God was providing in that direction. There's a particular one actually that I do feel really strongly. Actually, that was the one that led to the crisis where I felt like I made a real mistake there. So I would say when we pray, God answers our prayers. So I had prayed, God answered my prayers, but I guess probably due to my immaturity, not fully understanding how to receive what God was providing. There was a lot of immaturity and just not being clear. So due to not being able to recognize that this was, should I say, a provision from God, a move of God, it led to some missed opportunities. So I think God provided. I may have missed what He provided, but I believe He knows how to put it all right in the end.
You mentioned you missed what He provided. So the individual that you said you were trying to say God provided, do you think you'd ever, find her again or go back to her at some point?
Oh, no, that's not possible.
Why is that?
Well, I think they're all married, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's not going to happen in that direction anyway.
Well, maybe she wasn't the one. Maybe she fit your criteria.
Well, that's something I've stopped believing in also.
You stopped believing in the one?
I used to believe in that, yeah.
Why is that?
So there is not the one. Okay, let me again double back. So again, like I said, I wanted to be married in my 20s. So at some point I had a list. I actually wrote down what I want in a wife. I still have it. It's this very simple Word document in my Microsoft OneDrive.
Would you mind giving us
to Microsoft?
Would you mind giving us some of the?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go into details. But I think 7 points. Now, like the one I was saying, particularly, the one that hurt the most was at the point I wrote that list. Shortly after was when I met that person. So I can say out of maybe the 6 points I had, the 7 points, this person ticked 6 boxes. So the one that wasn't ticked was kind of, I could, overlook that. So I believe in writing down what you want. I believe in praying and asking God for what you want. So He did answer that prayer. So that's why I said that one hurts most. Of all the other ones I felt I may have lost, there was that one particular one because it aligned with almost exactly what I wanted, essentially. So that's why it was quite hurtful when things didn't work out, of course, due to my own fault. So God answers prayers. Remind me of the question. I think I've lost
That's okay, it
train of
happens.
thoughts. Yeah.
So I did ask you, you said you don't believe in the one. So I was trying to understand
So
why you
the
don't
one,
believe in the one.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe I don't believe in the one because if there was just the one, I could say, well, I've lost the one, so I should not marry. So I don't believe in the one because I believe there are several possible people that you can build a good and a godly future with. So a lot of people, so I used to be stuck on that. Actually, that did affect me in my 20s. So okay, this goes back to a very funny story. So there was a time, okay, I was in church and I hope I'm not revealing too much here. So a prophet came and spoke a prophecy that, you speaking to me that your wife is in this church, blah, blah, blah. So that got me stuck for years, thinking that the person I was going to marry would be in that church. So I think I spent about 3 to 4 years looking only within that church. So again, lost years, you get it. So, but this person I spoke about, with the list, was not from that church. So that was when I started to discard the thinking of one church or one person. And then from my experience, knowing that I personally believe God provided, each time, one day didn't work out, and I felt He provided another one. So my experience, I think I'll condense it to say my experience teaches me that there is no one that you're supposed to marry. There is one that you will marry, and when you marry that one, that's the one you should build your life of oneness, together and with God with. So the one is the one you marry, essentially, is how I see it now.
Wow. You said it was because of your immaturity. Do you have any advice to other men out there who might not know they're being immature and, what they should do to avoid, find themselves in situations where their relationships don't work out because of their immaturity?
First of all, be self-aware. Listen to people. Be open to correction. Most of us know our own faults. When you know your faults, don't make excuses for them. Identify your faults. Grow. Learn. Read books. One of the resources I use a lot these days is YouTube. I use YouTube for personal development. There's a lot of good material on YouTube. I used to love reading, but somehow I don't find myself reading much. So I substitute with podcasts, YouTube, personal development material. So I look for material in the areas I want to grow myself. So know your areas of weakness. Don't make excuses for them. Don't tell people to take you as you are. I think that's bad. If they tell you that, look, this rubs them the wrong way, it may hurt you. Take it on board. If more than one person especially has told you that, take it very seriously and do something about it. Go and look for material or a mentor or something to help you to deal with that area. If you have character faults, I think the best you can do for yourself and everyone, and the person you eventually would marry, is to deal with them. It's unfair to say, that's how I am, take me as I am. I don't believe in that. I think we all should take responsibility for dealing with our faults and our weaknesses. And because at the end of the day, by the time you marry, you want to give the best version of yourself to that person anyway. So please, I'd encourage everyone to identify their faults and take responsibility for dealing with them.
Oh, wow. That's actually, it's quite, because it speaks to me also. Sometimes when people are telling you, change this or change that, you're like, this is how I am, take me as I am. You don't want to change. But then we should be willing to adapt. And if that person is saying change for you to improve, we should be willing to improve ourselves. It not just helps the relationship, but it'll help you also in the long run. So, Wally, what are the characteristics, in your future bride that you're looking for?
Honestly, like I said, I used to have lists. Actually, the list I wrote did not contain impractical stuff. There were other stuff outside of the list that were impractical. So, you grow up and realize this never really mattered. But it's just, of course, number one, faith in God, an actual relationship with God. Self-awareness is a thing, just going back to the previous point. knowing themselves and doing their best to be the best version of who they can be. So yeah, the godliness is number one. The love for self and for others, and just having a good personality and a good relationship with people matters. Just someone who's peaceful. Hopefully, yeah, things along that line.
Okay, I'm going to ask you another question. So, sometimes, with family, with friends, they try to pair you up with people. Say, oh, meet this person, meet that person. How do you feel about that? Do you feel it's something that we should encourage, or do you feel it's something that is disrespectful?
Actually, I cannot discourage it because... again, going back to the person I said was matched to my lists, it came through recommendation. Someone recommended her. Excuse me. So 100% say yes, recommend people. Think it through. They should take a good look. I've had some bad recommendations. Let me be careful with my words in the past. Make sure you do your homework. If you're going to recommend someone, check them out yourself. Do not go based on face value. Oh, she's beautiful. Oh, he's handsome. I'm sure they'll work together. What's that got to do with the rest of life? Do your homework. Absolutely. I'm absolutely for, if you can use the word matchmaking, I'm pro matchmaking. It does work when it's done correctly. But yes, so the person making the match should do their own background work first. Know that you know the character of the person you're recommending, and that it matches, the person you're recommending them to. So yes, I think when it's done properly, it works. When it's done by the people who know you well, it could be family, it could be very close friends, not casual friends. It could be your church leaders who spent significant years with you. They know you. They know what you're about. So yes, I absolutely think people should make recommendations. I mean, there have been many successful marriages, but the key thing is do your homework and pray. If you're the praying type, ask God if you should actually go ahead and make the match.
Okay. So you're open to matchmaking, but are you open to dating websites?
Wow, I didn't know this would come up. Dating websites. I mean, for years, I said no. I would never recommend them to people, especially Christians. So I was, quite anti-dating websites. But I changed my mind along the line and said, you know what? I'm not against it. It's worked for some people. I think the percentage it works for is quite small. I know the dating websites magnify the success rate. I think they're being deceitful. The greater percentage of them don't work out. Again, if we're talking about the world beyond Christianity, a lot of people are just there for casual encounters, to be honest. But if we're talking about Christians specifically, the mind should be towards marriage. So while I still have my doubts about if it can work, I'm not against it. So I would never say to a Christian, don't try a dating website. For me, after saying no for many years, I did... I'm exposing myself here.
That's okay.
Maybe we'll cut this out after. So, I tried it. I eventually tried it. But just like I thought, it wasn't for me. So I cut off. I did like a 1-month trial subscription on one. I'm not going to say which one. I actually did end up meeting someone. We did meet once. And just realized that we just be friends. And that was it. I never subscribed beyond 1 month. So I did an experiment for the sake of others. Let's put it out.
Experiment. Okay.
So yes, it's not for me personally. It's personal. So I tried it. I don't know. My mindset doesn't go with what dating websites offers. So for others, it may be fantastic. But for me, no.
Okay. So if one of our viewers decided to, drop a comment and want to meet up with you, are you open to that?
Jesus is Lord. No comment.
Okay. It's my final question. Okay. How do you deal with do you ever feel isolated or lonely, and how do you deal with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're human. You feel loneliness sometimes. So, I mean, again, church has been a big part of helping. Church community, church events, church people. Recently, for instance, through a friend, I got connected to a WhatsApp group of the singles group of a church. So they organize events and outings. I actually went for a barbecue with their group yesterday. So yeah, Christian groups, events, singles and outings and stuff like that have been quite helpful. Personally, I'm introverted. I don't know if it's obvious from this video, but I'm making myself to go out and putting myself out there. Not necessarily looking for a relationship, no, just to be around people because it's healthy to be around people. So everyone should put themselves out there, not necessarily because you're looking for a husband and wife. That might happen along the way, but it's healthy for the mind to be around people. Yeah.
So how did you deal with COVID period? You know, because you mentioned you're introverted. You know, you're trying to go out there more. So how was it for you during COVID?
No, COVID period wasn't difficult because my living arrangement at the time meant I was around people, so it was fine. It wasn't a challenge. I don't know how it would have been now, where now I live just by myself. But in that period of time, I was living around people, so it was okay. That doesn't mean it didn't become a struggle. You know, for the first 6 months. So for the first 6 months, let me go back. So for the first 6 months, I was fine. Because funny thing was, before COVID, you know, I was just saying to myself, I want to take like a 6 months sabbatical. I actually specifically was thinking 6 months, not going to work. Or if I have to work from home. And it happened with COVID, coincidentally. So I was okay for the first 6 months. But after that, it was very specific for me. After that 6 months mark, I just wanted to get out and go out. So the moment they started to lift the lockdowns and say you could go into work, I was first out of the door. Even if it was just being at work around people, so that started to help. So yes, so even for someone who is introverted, God knows what he meant when he said it's not good for man to be alone. We're made to be around people. So yes, it wasn't easy, but I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy for a lot of people. But we just can't take out the importance of being around people from being human. It's something you can't separate.
Okay, so this is my real final question. So what advice do you give to family members or friends of people who, you know, might be in their 40s and single? You know, what can they do to make life easier for their people?
Just love them. Don't treat them as a problem to solve, I think might be one way to put it. Don't make them a project to tick off as done. Love them. Listen to them. Let them tell you what they want. Don't make assumptions. We spoke about assumptions earlier. Don't make assumptions. Don't put unnecessary spotlights on them. The spotlight could be, for instance, in church, calling them out for prayer all the time.
You do that all the time in church.
So you're spotlighting them. It starts to feel, you know, if I can use the word, well, let me use a nice word, inconvenient. So don't put unnecessary spotlights. Don't call out someone's weakness. Should I even call it a weakness? Don't call out someone's situation all the time. Take it to God if you feel so burdened about it. God answers prayers. Pray for them in your personal time. So just love them. What God said about the church is, by these will they know you're my disciples, by how you love one another. So love the singles just the way you love every other person in the church. For family, just be there. When they need you, they'll come to you. They'll tell you what they need from you, but let them know you're there for them to come to you when they want to talk. Don't force conversations. That would be a suggestion anyway, but just treat them the same. Don't be scared of them. Don't make assumptions that they're out there on these streets doing whatever. It's absolutely possible to be Christian matured and celibate. I know it looks like the whole world is going crazy, but not everybody is trying to go crazy. So don't make assumptions about their lifestyle. You don't know who they are unless they tell you who they are.
Thank you, Wally. And as we round up, I'm just going to ask you 3 random questions. Question number 1. What is the thing you hate the most?
The thing I hate the most, I think injustice, actually. I hate people treating others badly, or society treating certain people badly, or governments. I think injustice is a major annoyance, whether it's at the individual or collective level. Yeah.
Wow. Now, my second question is, what do you love the most?
Oh, God, of course. What else would I say?
And my final question, what are you passionate about?
Well, in terms of what I'm passionate about, so I work in technology. I actually have a genuine, if I can use the word, love for technology. I like all things technology, so I'm passionate about developing myself continually in that area. So I guess that makes me passionate about my work. I'm passionate about making a difference in people's lives as much as possible. I'm just passionate about making sure that I live a life of purpose and meaning. To me, life just doesn't feel complete unless I'm doing something meaningful with myself and my time. So I'm passionate about finding out what God wants me to do at each season, and then doing my best to go out and to do it. And yeah, I think that covers it, apart from things like I occasionally try to write or blog or this and that. But those are the things I would say, yeah, I love to do.
So despite being unmarried, do you still feel fulfilled?
Oh yeah, I do. It's something I desire. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely desire marriage. Yeah, it's like I said, I wanted this to be done with in my 20s. So the desire hasn't died. So I absolutely still want to be married. Believe I will be married. And I'm still passionate about getting married. I think that was the question, right?
Oh no, it was, do you still feel fulfilled?
Yes, I still feel fulfilled because I'm just carrying on with living. I'm working, serving at church. I'm still, seeking God for what else He may want me to do. I'm continually asking that question. I'm keeping myself occupied with interests, like I mentioned, blogging, and just doing all the things I want to do. I try them. If it works, I keep doing it. If I feel like this is not something I should be doing, I may leave it, if not for good, at least for some time. So yeah, I feel fulfilled in terms of I'm not stopping to live. I'm just getting on with life, not putting anything on hold. There's nothing I'm putting on hold waiting to be married. I'm doing my best to do everything I should be doing. And when marriage happens, it will meet me living as best as I can.
Thank you, Wally. It was great having you in our studio
welcome.
today.
Thank you.
Well, that was such an amazing conversation with Wally. On our next episode, we have Dr. Yaya Obozwa. He's a theologian and is going to give us the understanding on wisdom in families.
There are things you need to look for in a man. If, for example, if his friends make decisions for him, then you get into trouble. If there's any conflict at home, he goes to meet his friends. The friends may say, get rid of her. You see that in the book of Esther. So if you try to find out if a man's friends control him.
That's wisdom in families. You don't want to miss it. Guys, please don't forget to like and, of course, subscribe. We need all the support we can get. So see you next time. Bye.